Alrighty, everybody, welcome back to the Multiverse of Marvel podcast, where each week our resident Marvel guys, Aaron and Dan Greenlee, will deep dive into a crazy corner of the ever-expanding Marvel multiverse, to which topic, if I could say that right, to see which topic we discuss this week. How you guys doing this week?
I'm doing great. How about you?
I am well. I am well. We had a bit of a hiatus there for a few months, but that was mostly on me because I got a job and my computer died all in the same weekend. So I kind of had to deal with that, but hopefully we're back and good timing because we got to watch Wandavision.
Oh, yeah, it was fantastic.
Yeah, yes. I assume I should ask you guys beforehand that both you guys actually watched it.
Oh, yeah.
Watched it. Didn't get too swept up in the rampant speculation that followed that show.
Yeah, no, that was one thing that went pretty good, which I kind of like with the week to week, but I didn't get too much into that because admittedly I haven't read much of Vision and or Wanda, so I didn't really know I didn't know who Agatha was really. So then
honestly, a lot of the theories that people were putting out there weren't really even based on any previous Wanda or Vision comics. I mean, certain ones were, but a lot of the stuff I was reading was just insane and had nothing to do with anything really.
Because she deals with because the big one was Mephisto.
Yep, because Mephisto is a factor in the original comic dealing with the twins.
Okay,
but
Master Pandemonium is a little bit more prevalent when it comes to that.
True, but it all leads up to the same thing. But at the same time, as Aaron pointed out, there really wasn't any setup for Mephisto. And I mean, I personally kept saying, I think Doctor Strange should have showed up. Not that he needed to. It kind of shows he's not really good at his job. If this went on for a few weeks and there's no mention of him whatsoever.
Either that or Multiverse of Madness is going to have some serious explaining to do.
Yeah.
He's kind of like keeping an eye on it, sort of thing.
Yeah. Well, we'll find out. Sam Raimi probably has something up his sleeve, right? I mean, the guy's fantastic director, fantastic.
Not to fuel the speculation, but there is a period of time in the comics where Strange was hounded by the Vishanti for, his role in participating in a 1,000-year-long war that they needed him for.
So that's possible there. That's possible.
By the way, you're come deal with this or what, man? Like, what the fuck? All right, yeah. So let's really get into this. Obviously, a lot of the people might not know who, I have a passing thing of who Vision and Wanda is from the movies, but as I said, with me, a lot of people probably don't have a lot of back history with them.
Yep.
So let's go into that first because I think it was in the mid '80s they had that mini series where I think the kids.
Everything starts even before that.
Oh, okay. So let's go back a bit before because the Vision is from the '60s or something like that.
Yeah. But so Wanda is earlier. Wanda came from the 4th issue of X-Men where she was one of the Brotherhood that was introduced.
Yeah.
Vision came later in Avengers, still back in the '60s, but he was introduced in Avengers later.
Okay. I didn't find significant stuff earlier in my collection, but for reference's sake, I got a reprint of Giant Size Avengers #4 from 1974 here, which is the wedding of Wanda and Vision.
Nice.
I got the 3-parter from Avengers 185 to 187, which deals with Wanda's ties to Wundagore and really delves into her sorceress abilities.
Okay.
Not a whole lot of Quicksilver in that, but huge on Wanda. I don't even remember if Vision's in that series.
We did not show up Vision. Like, what the fuck?
No, yeah, his face is on the cover of the middle part. Been a little while since I read it, and I got all of Wanda and Vision's first miniseries and half of their second one. But from what I understand, that miniseries ties in with the first little bit of West Coast Avengers.
Yeah.
Okay.
I got first 5 issues of that. So it looks like for the first half of the second series, I got a fair bit that I could refer to.
And a lot of the stuff, the twins and all, I think it all plays out in West Coast Avengers.
Yeah, there is a bit of the Master Pandemonium stuff that I noticed flipping through the West Coast and Vision and Scarlet Witch issues.
All right.
I've been trying to go back and read through
West Coast #4. We got Master Pandemonium.
I've been trying to go back and read through all the earlier stuff to catch up on all these things, but I mean, I'm only still like at 1963 or 1964, so nowhere for any of this stuff yet.
All right, now Dan, you were saying like Wanda showed up in X-Men #4 with the Brotherhood.
Yep,
all right, so let's start with that. So like for those who may not know who the Brotherhood is, just kind of do a little synopsis of who they are.
They were Magneto's sort of team back in the early days of the X-Men. They've been
not
X-Men
so much
villains
a team as more of a group of subservience to Magneto's all-encompassing will.
Like, they made it pretty
really
clear.
Have any say in what was going on.
Yep.
So kind of his followers, sort of thing, more than anything.
Barely even that. They're just there to do whatever Magneto told them to do.
Okay.
Quicksilver was only there because Wanda was there. Wanda was there because Magneto saved her life. Yes. And they was pretty clear that they didn't really agree with him being the asshole that he was. They didn't really like a lot of stuff he did, and they ended up leaving pretty quick or early in and joining the Avengers.
Yeah, they don't get a whole lot of development from the X-Men issues, from what I recall, other than not being the assholes that Magneto and some of the others in the Brotherhood are.
And was it established that early that they were Magneto's?
No, not at all.
Because that's one thing with it's probably the biggest difference from the MCU and the books is that because they couldn't use mutants when they did Age of Ultron, they are the kids of Magneto of the X-Men.
Except after that happened, they changed it in the comics, so apparently they now aren't Magneto's kids.
Oh yeah, because that was something like super recent that she's not actually a mutant anymore or something.
But guaranteed they're gonna flop it back at some point.
Yeah, as comics do, but initially for the longest run that they were.
For the longest run, they were Magneto's kids though. For the longest run, when it got when it finally was established, it stuck around for a very long time.
I know, and that's
the Yesterday Gambit story, the one that ties her to Wundagore, that covers a good chunk of their origins.
Okay.
It has a lot about the gypsy parents, foster parents that they had, but in it, Wanda meets what was her name, Bova, the midwife from her birth.
Okay.
And Bova gives her a little bit of truth about where they. Sorry, not her. Quicksilver.
Okay.
She rescues Quicksilver and tells him about this mysterious woman named Magda, who just showed up out of the storms of Wundagore Mountain to give birth there at the High Evolutionaries lab. As soon as she gave birth, she wandered back out into the storm, and as far as I know, has never been seen again.
It's one of those things I've never been able to figure out either. I can't find if there's ever any point that Magda has ever shown up again. We've seen Magneto standing at a grave, but we have no evidence that she's buried there, that if maybe Magneto just put that there as a reminder. Like, we don't know anything about her, really, as far as I know.
The first wrinkle that comes in the identities of who's really Wanda and Pietro's parents is that there was another couple expecting a child at Wundagore that night. It was the hero, the Wizard, Robert Frank, I think he's a Golden Age character. He's also used in the Squadron Supreme stuff.
Is that the Wizard that the Amazing Spider-Man brought in, like when they're doing like the Captain America storyline? From the cartoon, like where they had like the three or four other ones.
Was he a speedster? It's been a while since I've seen
they tried testing like the super serum and other stuff, and because it was like a different serum, it only had like part of it, whatever else. You got the Wizard, and there was someone who could fly and all this stuff, and it only lasted for X amount of time instead of kind of like all the time, like Cap. And I think it was like one of the later seasons with the biggest that Spider-Man series from the mid-90s.
Yeah.
He's like old.
But his wife and child don't survive childbirth. Yeah. And with Wanda and Pietro being more or less abandoned by their birth mother, Bova sees, okay, hey, Frank, kids, and just faced with the tragedy of losing his wife, he just runs off into the night. And that's part of the confusion over like whether he's their father or not. That's what led him to believe that he was their father. But then the two of them were given to a gypsy couple. Those gypsy couple raised Wanda and Pietro just as they would have their own children. What connects things to Magneto here is that the woman who gave birth to Wanda and Pietro is identified as Magda. And then Daniel, maybe you'll have a better idea when this happens, but was it in classic X-Men that Magda was revealed to be Magneto's long lost wife, or was it earlier than that?
I think that probably was it. I can't. The earliest in the actual Uncanny I can think of was around issue 150. Somewhere around there, Magneto sees an image of her on the screen. But
that sounds about right. And 150, that would have been around what year, give or take, Dan? So I'm looking at issue 186 of Avengers.
82, 83.
Okay, that wouldn't be much longer after this than just a few years.
Yeah. And then Classic X-Men started, I believe, in 86. And then one of the backups did go into a lot more detail about that.
Okay. For those listeners that are interested in checking out Classic X-Men, literally the title Classic X-Men, it was a reprint series, covers Claremont's run of X-Men from one of the earliest titles or earliest stories. Awesome backup strips by Claremont and John Bolton and a few others along the way, but add a lot more depth and character to those classic stories.
And Claremont had a very good run on the X-Men in the 80s, didn't he?
I don't
16
think
years.
16 years.
Oh shit!
I thought it was
16 years.
But yeah, a decade and a half isn't a very good run. That's legendary.
He started in 75 and ended in 91.
Yeah, I couldn't remember exactly how long it was.
And then came back in 98 or so and hasn't actually left Marvel. They just don't really let him write much, but he's still under contract with them.
He's on the payroll.
Yep.
Hey, yeah, that's the way to do it, really, I guess. And is Sokovia only like the MCU
they've introduced it into the comics, but I'm pretty sure it was invented for the MCU.
Okay, yes, yeah. So that
I was just looking through the Marvel Atlas handbook, the two-parter, and I don't recall seeing Sokovia listed there at all.
Okay, yeah. So it's just like a movie thing then, just for that whole thing. Okay.
But honestly, if they had access to the Spider-Man stuff, it probably would have been Sermcania.
Yeah. No, it like a lot of the stuff that's happened nowadays, if it's introduced in the movies, they try to incorporate it.
Yeah, like they'll bring it back in, but it wasn't initially in the comics thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Negasonic Teenage Warhead now is nothing like the character Grant Morrison introduced.
Yeah. And they even changed the character for the movie when they did Deadpool, right? Because they only because that's kind of more of
the
Blaster.
The people from Marvel didn't know who she was, so they let her use her. And she's nothing like the character they use is nothing like what she is in the comics.
Yeah, that's why.
But the comic shows up and she shows up like 2 panels and then dies.
Oh shit.
Part of my suspicion is that because she's named after a song title, Marvel can't copyright or trademark that for themselves, so it probably didn't show up on any of Fox's rights listings.
Yeah, because it's a Monster Magnet song, right?
Yeah. Morrison's a huge fan.
Yeah, I know. Like when they were like in like Toronto area a couple years ago, I think you guys went. I saw that they were there, and I'm like, I should get tickets, and they never did, and I'm fucking kicking myself for not.
It was an awesome show.
I know. Yeah, no doubt.
Dude, they were still selling tickets at the door. You could have gotten in for easy money.
I know. I think that was the time I didn't have the job, so I was like, I probably shouldn't spend the money, but I'm looking back, I fucking wish I won. Because it's just in the last couple of years I've kind of really got into them. So and I was like, fuck, they're fucking awesome. Because
you've picked out all the various comic book references in their songs, huh?
Because the one thing, the one that sticks out, the one line is like, we all should have died the day that Jack Kirby died. That always fucking sticks out in my head.
World should have cried on the day Jack Kirby died.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. I forget what song that's from, but that's like the main. But
it's Aaron's favorite band, so he knows.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's like the main one. The comic reference that always sticks out for me from them. Yeah.
Well, Space Lords is about Galactus.
That totally makes sense.
Yeah, the same album that has Negasonic Teenage Warhead has an instrumental track titled "Ego: The Living Planet."
Oh, nice.
And that's like back in '95.
Oh, nice.
An album from a few years ago had a track titled "The Mindless Ones," which is chock full of Doctor Strange references, blatant Doctor Strange references, names you only find in Doctor Strange. And like the rabbit hole just keeps going down from there. Mentions of MODOK, Galactus. There's a couple of songs that have some overt X-Men references.
Yeah. and they're actually even friends of the comic book men. If you guys know that show, that where they tell them Steve Dave.
It goes
the lead
deeper than
singers-
that.
But yeah, but
singers
so-
from that area.
yeah,
Dave
so yeah,
Weindorf's previous band to Monster Magnet, Shrapnel,
Yeah.
they were big in the New York underground scene,
Yeah.
and they apparently have an appearance in an issue of Amazing a Spider-Man annual or something.
oh, that's rad.
Check my
Yeah, because he's been on the
Amazing
Help Steve
Spider-Man
Dave a
annual
couple times.
14 apparently has an appearance by the band Shrapnel, which
That's awesome.
would be the precursor to Monster Magnet.
Well,
That's
I'm
rad.
fairly
It's
certain Dave
all
Weindorf
connection.
is from Red Bank, New Jersey, or
yeah,
Leonardo,
or
New Jersey.
yeah,
so-
like same area. Yeah, so they kind of knew each other from like the back then. And
Yeah.
then yeah. So it's rad that yeah, because I think I was listening to it one time and like they're like, oh yeah, Dave Woodruff. I'm like, that's Monster Magnet guy, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it's rad. So and then so that's like a good little thing of Wanda. What would Vision is his creation in the comics similar to what was in Ultron, or
Similar, but it's fraught with its own complications as well. He is the progeny of Ultron.
Yeah.
That much holds true. He wasn't created to be a new upgraded body for Ultron. Ultron has no problem doing that on his own.
Yeah.
Vision was supposed to be a literal son for Ultron.
okay,
And he was
Much in
always
the way
made
that
to
Ultron
attack the-
himself was the son of Hank Pym.
Yep. And he was always made to be this, infiltrate the Avengers and take them out.
Part of the problem was, and this varies depending on which point in continuity you are and whether it's been retconned or not, but it was alleged that the creator of the original Jim Hammond Human Torch, he's involved with the creation of Vision, and he allegedly used Human Torch's body to create Vision. And it's that innate heroic goodness of the Human Torch that allowed Vision to be born free of Ultron's control.
to break
At
his
least in some
programming, as it
tellings
were.
of it.
Yeah. No, also not to
That
mention the
gets
fact-
redone when Jim Hammond himself gets resurrected in his own body. So if he's back, how can Vision be the Human Torch?
And also,
Oh.
his brainwaves in the
Yeah.
Avengers movie were based on they said Banner
Jarvis?
and Jarvis and Tony Stark, plus the Infinity Stone that they used. Whereas in the comics, it's just Wonder Man.
Wonder Man, yeah, it
Yeah,
copies
it's
his
just based
brain
off of Wonder
patterns.
Man.
And it wasn't only Wonder Man's. It wasn't Hank Pym, or we just
As
had a hand.
far as I know, just Wonder
Yeah.
Man.
But that's
Okay.
also why Vision was so in love with Wanda, because Wonder Man was in love with Wanda.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and on top of that, because of the nature of their connection, like Vision and Wonder Man are kind of like soul brothers.
Yeah.
And this really, really grates against Simon Williams, Wonder Man's real brother, Eric Williams, the Grim Reaper. He has it in his head that Vision is an unholy, soulless abomination that is just a mockery of his dead brother, and that Wonder Man isn't actually his brother either. He's kind of screwed up in the head.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Ultron had like a bigger like backstory with the X-Men and Avengers, all that stuff too, and so just being the one movie, because there's like multiple versions
him
and
feeling worthless and useless as an Avenger, spiraling into a depression that nobody's recognizing. Oh no, wait, sorry, I'm thinking of the later story arc. Now, early on, he's just trying to be, science without borders.
Typical Reed
Venture
Richards style
Brothers
science.
super science type stuff. Just makes Ultron. And makes Ultron a little bit too well. And Ultron decides he doesn't want to be a daddy's boy.
And kind of like Brainiac and the DC stuff, there's like multiple versions or something like that too.
Yeah, every time they
not the
take
same
him
way as
out.
DC. The multiple Ultrons are just Ultron upgrading himself, and like because he is strictly a computer program.
Yeah.
Every time he recreates himself, like he's like the next version, like 1.0, 2.0.
Yeah, he'll upgrade
This
his
isn't
body.
like, say,
or he'll get
Calibos
destroyed.
back in Grimjack, where he had a soul and it was like the same program, just using different robot bodies. Ultron upgraded and recreated himself to the point where one of the later Ultrons had evolved its programming to the point where it didn't hate Hank Pym anymore. It saw him as a legitimate father and saw himself as a legitimate son.
Oh, nice.
Previous and later Ultron versions did not like this development at all. Pretty sure that good Ultron got killed right quick.
And as comics go, really.
Yeah. All the best characters aren't really recognized on their first appearances. Sometimes they get wiped out a little bit too early, and the writers and editors and moneymakers realize, oh, wait, we had something going with that. Can we bring that back? Can we make this a good guy? How can we make more money off of this?
Yep, and that's why comic book characters never really die.
Exactly.
Well, at least corporate characters like Marvel characters, DC characters.
Yeah.
When you get into more creator-owned stuff,
Yeah.
either the stories are interesting enough that it doesn't matter whether characters are killed and brought back, or there's stories where deaths really matter and characters don't come back.
Yeah.
Like I would say ElfQuest is a great example of one where as the story progresses, characters die and it has impact and meaning.
Oh yeah. Nice.
Much more so than The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
Fuck The Walking Dead.
The Walking Dead was a fine enough comic, but if you're looking for zombie action, there's other more fun zombie comics. Walking Dead was great for just human on human.
Yeah, dealing with the human aspect of it. Yeah.
Other. The backdrop of being zombies was incidental.
Yeah.
Personally, if I'm going to read a zombie comic, I would rather read Dead World.
Dead World. I'll have to check that out. And is it who makes that, or is it?
It's now defunct. It was mostly. It's varied over the years. Not to get too deeply into it, but one of the fun things about that is Daniel and I are stationed here in Peterborough, Ontario. Adam is from Peterborough, Ontario.
Yeah.
One of the early creators of Dead World once resided in Peterborough, Ontario.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Stuart Kerr, I think it was the one who had spent time living in Peterborough.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. And yeah, for people outside of Ontario or Canada, that's like we're just like just over 100 kilometers outside of Toronto. If
about halfway between Toronto and Ottawa, give or take.
Yeah, just about. Yeah. So all right, I'll have to, because the guy who did The Crow is from in and around Peterborough initially too, or something like that.
He has connections,
or
something
like that. Yeah.
A friend of mine, I believe, has personal knowledge of the man.
Yeah.
But yeah, Obar, he showed up at one of the Peterborough cons when we briefly had them here in town.
Oh, nice. Yeah. I think he was at one of the March Comic Cons like a few years back, I think, too.
Yeah.
Like, one time I think I got like a Crow thing signed for a friend that in Ottawa or some shit like that too.
Those days of yore when we could actually have conventions and gatherings.
I know, yeah.
Those days will come again.
Yeah, eventually. I know that's funny.
You have to believe. Just believe.
I know that's why I think it's funny. And I'll actually have money to actually spend at cons and actually live back in Toronto. I can't go to any. This fucking sucks.
Yeah, there's none happening.
Yeah, but this means I'll be able to actually put some money aside and actually get some good stuff for whenever they do come back.
Oh, so as we've been conversing, I've been flipping through some of the comics on the pile in front of me. Flipping through to Vision and the Scarlet Witch first limited series number 4. Yeah, Magneto right there on the cover, and it has him talking with Bova, specifically asking about Magda. So Dan, this is cover dated February '83.
Yeah,
that must be right around the same as X-Men 150. I mean, Magneto's all dressed in white here.
A little bit later, because the New Mutants graphic novel came out in '83, I believe, or '82, and the series started in '83, and that was around issue 160 or so of X-Men.
Yeah.
So we're looking at probably about '82 for 150. So yeah, no, that all lines up right.
Yeah. It looks like around the same time as when Wanda's niece was born. Yeah, that's something that never gets, probably isn't going to get touched up on the TV shows and the movies. It's that Pietro has a daughter with one of the Eternals.
Humans.
Really?
Inhumans, sorry, yeah,
Oh,
Inhumans.
Inhumans.
I always get those two mixed up because I never care as much about it.
And they're like, yeah.
But yeah,
hear ya.
the Inhuman Crystal, who had been at times an Avenger and an associate of the Fantastic Four, she and Pietro hooked up for a little while. Were briefly married, if I recall,
Oh, yeah. Nice.
and they have a daughter who is based on the events of House of M, mostly estranged from Pietro. Dan, she's a mind reader or something, isn't she? Like
I thought she had elemental powers.
something to do with being able to know your secrets. Like somehow she just knew what Pietro had done.
That's always fun in a relationship.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but given the connections she comes from, I doubt that she'll be used or have any reason to be showing up in any of the cinematic stuff.
Yeah.
She's not grown up to be any young Avenger or anything. I don't even think she's aged on the same time frame as most of the other characters born around the same era.
Honestly, I can't remember the last time I've seen her.
Yeah, no, she shouldn't be much younger than. Yeah, she should be around Valeria's age, give or take.
No,
No.
She
Wait,
should be older. She should be much older than Valeria.
No, she should be in between Valeria and Franklin.
Yeah.
And are the Inhumans and Eternals kind of linked, or are they just kind of two separate things?
Just other than the fact that they're both like very Jack Kirby-ish in the early days.
Yeah, Inhumans is a direct spin-off from Fantastic Four, whereas Eternals was part of Jack Kirby's return to Marvel. From the outset, to my knowledge, Eternals and Devil Dinosaur and I can't remember if he was doing anything else at the time, but those two titles specifically were not initially supposed to be Marvel continuity, and then at some point they got dragged into it. I think there was a Thor story arc that used the Eternals, and Eternals were never supposed to fit into that mythology. But this is Marvel; they made it work.
As they do, yeah. And within Inhumans, were they the Terrigen Mist, like in the
Terrigen Mist,
Terrigen Mist, like in the Agents of Shield or whatever?
Yep, that's how it works.
Okay, so that was the same thing. Okay, nice.
Yep.
Excellent.
All right. The way it was there was it's kind of like in Agents of Shield, where they implied that the Inhumans had a sort of ceremony where they would expose Inhumans to at a certain point to give them their powers.
Yeah.
But in the big crossover Infinity, Black Bolt let off a Terrigen bomb that kind of let a Terrigen cloud go around the world that started giving just random people Terrigen, or we found out a lot of people had Inhuman powers, and people started randomly getting
Inhuman potential.
Oh, nice. Yeah, and then it also turned out that eventually it started killing mutants too, and then
because that's the one where like Cyclops dies or whatever, right?
Yeah, that was a really just terrible period for X-Men altogether. Marvel didn't want to do it, so it just kind of went to the side.
Well, it was never going to last. It was never going to be a thing. X-Men was too profitable on its own. It's too popular, always has been. Will always.
And no one's ever cared about the Inhumans the way they cared about the X-Men. No, nobody ever has really.
The wealth of characters just isn't the same. Like there are lots of different cool Inhuman characters, but outside of the royal family, nobody gets any real story time.
Yeah.
Whereas X-Men, there's been so many different titles and spin-offs and side stories.
So many X-Men.
Yeah, it just keeps going.
All right. So so let's get into the show itself. You guys said you liked the show?
Oh yeah, I enjoyed it very much. I thought it was well written. It had great pacing. Much better than the Marvel Netflix shows where they kind of all sort of slumped in the middle. Like this one, just it knew where it started, it knew exactly where it needed to go, and it got there.
And did they take a storyline from the comics at all, or is this
not specifically? No, everybody keeps touting, "Oh, House of M, and I would disagree. No, House of M was her, being pushed specifically to a breaking point and then snapping in a way that altered reality entirely.
Yeah,
this, as many other reviewers are pointing out now that it's concluded, is Wanda versus grief.
Yeah,
like she's had like an emotional breakdown, but it's not the same sort of thing she was driven to in House of M. It's not nearly on the same scale as that. It can't be. This is a small intimate story, whereas House of M had them all in like royal families and controlling all of Earth's society. Like it just went so far. Thankfully, I avoided it. But WandaVision, on the other hand, was a much more down to earth, family setting. It did feel in its own way a lot more like the Wanda or the Scarlet Witch and the Vision miniseries back in the 80s, where this is the time to focus on these two as a couple. Whether they're going to be doing the typical superhero stuff, whether they're going to be hanging out with the Avengers, whether they're going to be having personal journeys. And as I'm seeing here at the end of the first miniseries, meeting Magneto and having Magneto meet his granddaughter, his firstborn granddaughter, where it's a huge character moment.
Yeah.
This is much more in tune with what they're going for the TV series. Plus, they had the chance to drop a lot of seats to other things in the show. Like, I liked finding out that some of the unresolved plot points left behind in it aren't necessarily unresolved, just unaddressed by the conclusion of that series. Like, since it has nothing to do with spoilers, the missing person that brought Jimmy Woo to Westview, that's apparently going to be addressed at a future point. Like, I'm interested in that.
Yeah. So do we think that's somebody that we've seen in the movies, or is it gonna be somebody else? Do you think?
I would rather not speculate.
Considering how much they love throwing us off.
Not in this regard. I mean, there's some things like I've figured right from the get-go that Agnes was Agatha Harkness.
Yeah, that was
so. But I've been reading the comics forever.
As I said,
Agatha
I'm
in a few different
with her,
aspects. One of the early issues of Fantastic Four that I got was one where the four are being attacked by Nicholas Scratch, Agatha's oldest son. And it's one of the ones where Franklin's demonstrating just how potentially powerful he is.
Yeah.
Like, Scratch has possessed him and is quite possibly going to destroy everybody.
Lovely.
But yeah,
since you don't know much about Agatha, we probably should talk a bit about her.
Yeah,
she was introduced in Fantastic Four as Franklin's nanny.
Okay.
And she was a scary woman right from the get-go. Not in a maniacal, villainous way, just the
scary nanny sort of way.
Reserved power, like you don't know what she's capable of, and then
a couple of times, something bad happened, and the four were trying to race to her and Franklin to make sure they're okay, and they get there, and they're perfectly fine.
Situations dealt with.
Agatha had it dealt with, and then we find out that's because she's a very powerful witch.
She, in the comics, is much older than what is implied in the TV show. I don't know if she herself is Atlantean, but she dates back to the age of Atlantis. Like tens of thousands of years old.
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
Because in the show they just kind of go back to the Salem. It does kind of go back to the Salem witch trials, whatever. That's only.
But they did hint at the Atlantean connection.
Did.
When Agatha's quoted mother is using her full power, and that crown-like visage appears over her head, much in the same way that we saw with Wanda.
Yeah.
It was pointed out that definitely resembles the crown that Zered Na, the High Priestess of Atlantis, had worn.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, she was the one who had predicted that Atlantis was going to fall, got kicked out of it for her troubles, set up a small little commune on the mainland, tried to warn people, hey, this flood's coming, and got killed off for it.
And do you guys subscribe to the theory in Endgame that where they said that there was the stuff going off the coast of Wakanda that might be
that wasn't intended to be.
The writers flat out said that they didn't even plan that, and that they didn't think that far ahead.
So it was just a random line, and it's not connected. Okay.
Yeah, sadly, the time to hint at Namor was Captain America: The First Avenger. That's the one thing that disappointed me about that movie, is we got that visual hint of the original Human Torch there at the World's Fair.
Yeah.
There should have, I didn't need to see Namor in it, but there needed to be some sort of blatant acknowledgement of the Prince of Atlantis's existence in
Yeah,
that
well, the
film.
problem was at the time Universal still had the rights to Namor. I mean, remember when they were making that movie, they really tried getting Hugh Jackman in as one of the soldiers when the Howling Commandos got rescued,
which would have just added to the whole thing.
But apparently, that was too much of a rights issue. Even if they didn't even mention who it was, apparently having him there because it was Marvel Comics was too much of a rights issue. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what I've heard about.
It definitely sounds like a TV thing. That fucking stupid fucking race shit. Yeah.
But so I mean that now me saying that I don't believe that the writer said that Endgame thing has nothing to do with Namor. It doesn't mean that when Namor shows up, they might not turn around and retcon it and say that it is like how
they've all but said that now that it's been brought to their attention. That's what it might become.
Kind of like the kid who shows up in Iron Man 2 at the end of it, wearing the Iron Man mask, how, they retconned later and said, that's Peter Parker, at the time, it was not Peter Parker.
It was just some kid,
Exactly. But because they got Peter, they could use him. Well, why not?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So they could comic book it. Yeah. But, okay. So you said Namor, like a Atlantean high priestess or some such.
She was an Atlantean sorceress. She transcribed a very powerful book of sorcery, generally just known as the Tome of Zred-Na. These are elements that are brought up in Steve Gerber stories. Originally, Man-Thing. The horror character Jennifer Kale is a long descendant of Zred-Na and maybe a reincarnation of her. They've never outright said it, but it's been hinted just based on her appearance and her affinity with all this magic.
Yeah.
But those stories, plus I believe some other stories Gerber's done with Submariner, and I think some of this was also. I've only got bits and pieces of the books of the Vishanti from the 90s run of Doctor Strange. But I think a good chunk of it was corroborated throughout that backup series. Pretty sure that was Roy and Dan Thomas as well. So, a writer who knows what he's doing.
Yeah, that's nice.
But it's powerful magic, but it's definitely white magic in terms of like good and evil magic, dark magic, light magic. Like one of the things that some later writers had forgotten. I'm looking at the authors of that god-awful Witches miniseries. But in the original canon, the Tome of Zred-Na was specifically stated as not capable of being used for evil. Like its magic doesn't work that way. So this was very much positive magic, which does bring more into question if these elements are more or less accurately mirrored with what they're doing in the TV show. Does that mean that the magic that Agatha was using is diametrically opposed to the magic that the rest of that coven was using? If they're all using Atlantean good magic and Agatha's tapping into this Darkholdian black magic, that's going to put them at heads with each other.
Yeah, that'll do it. Yeah. Speaking of like kind of cutting to the end, like you saw like the last little mid credit scene in the last episode where it's kind of her looking at
her
the
astral form studying the Darkhold.
Yeah. So what do you think's coming from that? Or
probably not something good.
To take away from what we know of the Darkhold from the comics, it definitely indicates Wanda's power level. Only the most powerful of magic users or the most knowledgeable and adept of sorcerers are able to even look at those pages without forfeiting their souls.
Oh, really?
Yeah. That's been a truism throughout the comics all along. Like, unless you are already missing your soul, like Modred the Mystic is, or you're the Sorcerer Supreme, like Doctor Strange, or you've got an unbreakable will, like Doctor Doom, you don't touch the Darkhold. It's just not a good idea.
And this would be the same Darkhold from like the Agents of the Shield. They'll be like that. They've
technically yes.
Actually, the director said, as far as he's concerned, that it is the same one.
Yeah,
and the only
all we
know,
but the book has looked different at different times in the comics.
Yeah, all we know is that Johnny Blaze had it. Agents of Shield got it. Somehow in Runaways, Morgan Le Fay ended up with it, and then Agatha, I'm assuming, got it back.
So it's made its way around.
Yeah. Because I mean, it makes sense to say if someone like John Blaze had the Darkhold, I'd imagine he would be able to keep it away from someone like Agatha Harkness.
Yeah.
And that
also imagine
as
that
soon as
if I keep in mind that I haven't seen the Agents of Shield stuff because I'm just not that big of a TV guy, I have to admit.
Yeah, it's legit.
But just knowing what I know about the early Marvel horror stuff and the Darkhold and all that, I would assume more or less that it's just Werewolf by Night story transposed into Ghost Rider story, where, you know, the book was already, his family had already had ties with the book. It has the possibility of being able to reverse this curse, so you know it gets a little bit of focus. You know, the comics established that John Blaze's mother had been a witch. She had studied magic. She had used spells to try to save Johnny from being the host of the Spirit of Vengeance. It wasn't her fault that she got screwed over for that.
Yeah.
But yeah, what Johnny's original fate was supposed to have been, she circumvented through countless spells and ultimately the sacrifice of her own life.
Oh damn.
But yeah, like knowing the Werewolf by Night stuff, yeah, I would just have assumed that for TV stuff, barring any other explanation provided, Johnny's mother had used the Darkhold at some point. Johnny saw a reference to it when he's trying to figure out how to break his curse. Johnny tracks down the Darkhold, finds out eventually that he can't break his curse with it.
Oh damn.
Par for the course when you're dealing with you know, otherworldly entities in the Marvel universe.
Yeah. Part and parcel, really. I guess. What do you expect?
You can't stop being a superhero once you've had that sweet flavor. I mean, even when you stop being a superhero, you don't get to stop.
Yeah.
John Blaze almost got a whole decade where he wasn't starring in a comic book, but he still showed up for a couple of issues of Defenders.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that's another series I need to start reading is the Defenders. Yeah,
there's some good stuff here and there throughout it, but it's like 150 issues, so there's
fuck
lots of room for good stuff in that series.
That's a lot of issues.
Yeah.
All right, so do you guys have anything else on the show or anything?
Oh, I'm looking forward to this Friday for the next show.
That's right. The Winter Soldier.
Falcon and Winter Soldier, yeah.
Yeah, that's on Friday. All right.
Yep.
So any ideas of where you think that's going to go, or?
All I know is Madripoor is showing up, so we're finally getting our first X-Men universe thing.
Sorry, who?
Madripoor. It's a
location.
It's location from Wolverine comics. Southeast Asian island that's just basically a pirate island. It's all criminal.
Imagine a comic book corrupt version of Hong Kong. I was going to say a corrupt version of Hong Kong, but
so Hong Kong.
So it's Jungle Island.
A more criminal oriented Hong Kong.
It's a jungle island called Madripoor that has a big city in it called Madripoor, which is one part called Hightown.
So it's kind of like that island from Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah, sort of. Except like one town, you got Hightown, which is all futuristic, all skyscrapers, all high technology, and then you got Lowtown, which is just a big, huge slum.
Okay.
And nice. Wolverine hangs out there a lot. He's known as Patch there because when he first went there, he lost his eye and didn't know it healed, so he just wore an eye patch.
Nice.
So now every time he goes back, he puts the eye patch back on, and people know.
It's like, hey, it's Patch. Nice.
Exactly. Right. But during some guy ended up taking a picture from his office where he could see them filming outside, and there was a whole restaurant made up to look like some Southeast Asian restaurant, and it had the Madripoor flag on the wall.
Oh, nice.
And at that point, everyone started freaking out. And then when you saw the trailer, when it showed that sort of futuristic looking city, I was nice. Madripoor. I'm going to be very upset if it turns out it's not Madripoor.
I'm just hoping for a little bit of a taste of Thunderbolts, maybe. I mean, you got Heinrich Zemo doing his thing, and Thunderbolts is the series that made him a more interesting character than just the one-note villain that he had been. I mean, I've got some of his early stuff in Captain America, and yeah, he's way more interesting than his father and always was.
Yeah.
But Thunderbolts made him a bit more complex. I mean, he had his whole run there as being like the villainous mastermind, but by the end of it, he's a different character. I'm really interested to see what Daniel Brühl will do with that character in the series, just with the growth I've seen in the comics and what I've seen Daniel Brühl be able to do as an actor. Like I'm interested, but yeah, give me some hints at Thunderbolts. I want to see Zemo leading a team of
Yeah, because
maybe
General Ross
heroes,
is supposed to
maybe
be showing up more, I
villains.
think, right?
Yeah, General Ross is supposedly showing up in it.
No,
And
no, that's not what I mean by Thunderbolts.
know.
I don't care what Marvel wants me to buy. That's not what I mean by Thunderbolts. Just because his name is Thunderbolt Ross doesn't mean he gets to co-op that friggin' title. Grr. I don't care if you stick Ghost Rider in it. It's not Thunderbolts. And that was my rant.
All right. Yeah. So before we wrap this up, we do have 2 Twitter questions about the about WandaVision, the show.
All righty.
So, all right, one from Amanda Slack, which is my I know from my college days when I was in Belleville way back, and it's do you think that Tommy and Billy will show back up at some point?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
They're Wiccan speed. They're gonna show up again.
Yeah. So,
Every step of the way of that show involving everything to do with the kids, myself and Daniel were independently able to predict just based on our knowledge of the characters from the comics. Like, oh yeah, they're gonna have kids. Yeah, she's gonna have twins. She's gonna have twins? Yeah. Oh, she's gonna have a boy and a girl just like her and her brother? No, she's gonna have 2 boys. Really? How do you know? Well, because Speed and Wiccan are characters in their own rights. You know, they star in comics, they have action figures, they are names. So yeah, regardless of what happens to them in this series, they've been introduced. They are young Avengers.
I don't want to get into the wild speculation, but the Doctor Strange movie is called Multiverse of Madness.
Yeah.
Elizabeth Olsen is starring in it.
Yeah.
Like, so we know she's in it. So, I mean, it's not that hard of a stretch to think that maybe her role in it is that she's trying to find her kids.
Hey, we heard them calling for help.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's right. And that when she was
last moment
starting
of that end credit scene.
Yeah.
So I don't think that that's too much of a stretch to think that that's what might happen in the movie.
All right.
Or at least her character arc in that movie.
Exactly.
So this series is probably some of it set up for her to be in that movie, sort of thing. Yeah, that could definitely work. All right, one more is from Braydon. Yes, the donkey rises, and he asks, "Is what do we think about the future of the White Vision? Do we think he'll show back up, or he'll just kind of show being like normal Vision and normal and
I think he'll show up again as White Vision before they ever do anything to reset him back to normal Vision.
This is going to be the next phase of Paul Bettany having fun and exploring the character of Vision.
Yeah.
He doesn't seem to be bored with the character. He doesn't seem to be I don't know what I want to say.
He doesn't seem to be looking for a way out.
No, yeah, that's exactly it.
Like, he said
he's eager for whatever else they want to throw.
When they brought him in to let him know about the job for WandaVision, he thought he was getting fired and was, upset about it, but not angry. He, wanted to let everyone know that, he thought he was really happy to be involved. And Kevin Feige was like, "Wait, are you quitting?" And Paul was like, "No, aren't you firing me?" And Kevin goes, "No, I want you to do a TV show." But I mean, you can see that he loves the role, and he's the only one who's been sticking around since the very start, right? Yeah. I mean, he was there for Iron Man 1, and he's been there since then.
It was pointed out that he has now played the character across 3 decades. It was in the first Iron Man in 2008, and now we're in the 2010s, and he's technically still played the same character.
Now in 2021.
Now I figure the arc of White Vision, the Vision, Cataract, whatever you want to call him, the arc of that is probably going to mirror the way it was in the comics, where he was Vision, he was just detached from his emotions. The reason I see it as this is the same thing happened to Captain Marvel in the comics, and I don't really see it being as worthwhile for them to do that same story arc to her in the movies.
They're gonna do it slightly, but not the same way. Because since they can now do X-Men, they're going to have Rogue get her powers that way. And there's other rumors flying around that before they get into the actual X-Men movie, we're going to see a lot of them getting introduced other places. So I mean, I would actually like to see Rogue get introduced in Captain Marvel 2, and that to happen. But
Daniel, you're forgetting how ham-fisted her story was handled in the comics. We have a chance to get it better. What I'm getting at is, when she came back and got her memories reimplanted in her head by Xavier, her whole approach was that she remembered things, she remembered her life and her history,
but didn't have the connection and didn't care.
She remembered her parents, but she she couldn't love her parents through those memories. Vision's going to be that. He's going to have all this data that he can process and understand, but he's not going to have the emotional resonance with it.
Which is a good reason to explain why he wasn't there at the end of the show, why he just
he had to go and find his own place. And the showrunners have already said that he's not the Vision that Wanda fell in love with. Wanda's not the person that Vision remembers falling in love with, the Vision, I guess. Like they're just not the same people that they're needing from each other right now. So like that doesn't bother me that there's no real meeting between the two. But that doesn't mean to say that they can't have a reconciliation at some point.
Like, again, happened in the comics.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, do a couple movies and then they'll get back together, sort of
where,
thing. Yeah.
Like, it's kind of like that RoboCop scene or the scene in RoboCop 2 between Murphy and his wife, where like he's like being all emotionless and robotic and stuff. Vision was like that in the comics, except it wasn't an act. That's how he really was.
Yeah.
I see that happening, and I don't have any idea where it'll be done or how it'll happen, where they'll stick it. But yeah, wherever they end up using Vision, it will be him slowly regaining his humanity.
Yeah, and then he was a West Coast Avenger at one point, right? Wasn't he?
Yep.
I think. Yeah.
Yep. The West Coast Avengers. That's where the White Vision story arc happened.
Okay.
I don't know if I have any of that part. I've just got scattered stuff from Avengers across different eras. Never actually collected it. Just whatever cool issues that I've come across.
Yeah, I don't think I have any
across cool
Avengers
cheap
issues
issues
myself.
of Avengers.
My Avengers stuff basically starts with Heroes Reborn on, and even then I don't have a bunch of stuff at the start of Heroes Reborn, and then I got like Avengers Disassembled, and then a lot of what comes about after Disassembled.
I got a solid chunk around and following issue 200. The story arc that has Ghost Rider kicking the crap out of the Avengers one after another.
Oh, yeah. Wait, what's that story?
During the late 70s, early 80s for Ghost Rider, he was losing, like Johnny Blaze was losing control over the Spirit of Vengeance to Zarathos, the demon that was possessing him.
Yeah.
I am of the belief that Zarathos and the Spirit of Vengeance back in those comics are two separate entities. The way we saw Zarathos developed was not like his origins and backstory don't match with what we've seen for other things. So I've always seen it that Zarathos is just taking command over the Spirit of Vengeance that's in Johnny. So like for the first chunk of Ghost Rider, Johnny's in control. He's using Ghost Rider as a hero. But for the last chunk, every time he transforms, Zarathos is in control, and it's that much more of a struggle for Johnny to make the Ghost Rider do good.
Do the good stuff.
One of the early issues that is part of this transition was, I think, issue 214 of Avengers. It's not sitting in front of me right now, but that one has Johnny during his gradual loss of control. He goes to his old teammate Angel because they were buddies back in the Champion days. He goes to him looking for help, and for whatever reason, I forget what's going on in Angel's life, he can't provide the immediate support that Johnny is demanding. He's not saying that he can't help, he just can't do this exact thing this right moment. And Johnny ends up going off the handle and succumbing to the Ghost Rider, and Ghost Rider hurts Angel.
This is like X-Men Angel with the wings.
Yeah.
Okay.
This was when he was not part of the X-Men team. He was doing his own thing. Angel had been part of the Champions. He'd been part of the Defenders. He's had a storied history.
Yeah.
But
so this is before or after you got turned into Archangel?
Before. This is before Archangel. Yeah. This is when he still has the natural wings.
The angel wings.
Yeah. But the Avengers find out what's happened, and they go to try to take Ghost Rider out, and he just mops the floor with them.
Oh, nice.
The only reason that they're able to turn around on it is Thor isn't affected by the Hellfire. Like it affects him, but he can shrug off its influence. Yeah. Like Tiger ends up with PTSD from this fight. Because like she gets burned with the Hellfire and she has no defense against it. Like Iron Man, he can seal up his armor like super tight so that he thinks he can't get affected by the Hellfire. So like he's got his confidence back. He can, bluff Ghost Rider down. But like Tiger's like, if he does that to me again, there's nothing I can do.
Yeah, I'm done.
Yeah, like Ghost Rider just walks through the Avengers in a single issue.
That's nice. All right. So, so is that really anything you guys got on WandaVision and Wanda and Vision?
Yeah, that's pretty much it for now. Yeah.
All right.
Emmy nominations are in order.
Yeah, definitely. She should get something for.
Not just her. Like, there's a fair bit going on. The show definitely requires a bit more scrutiny, but yeah, I think it's probably worthy of a few awards.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely enjoyed it. And yeah, definitely looking forward to the Winter Soldier and Falcon this week. And so maybe like in a week or two we'll come back and maybe talk about the first episode of that maybe.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, yeah. So hopefully we'll be able to do that this weekend or next or something else. So hopefully we'll figure something out. We'll be back soon. And thank you everyone for joining this week. And as I said, hopefully we'll be back next week and we're talking a little bit about Winter Soldier and it's Falcon the Winter Soldier. I keep on saying that backwards. So just do that and check us out. Rate, review, subscribe to the podcast. Check us out on Twitter at the Marvel Pod, and we're on Instagram, the Multiverse of Marvel. And check us out wherever else you got a podcast. And I am on a couple of episodes of Off My Shelf, talk about a few movies with the host that she takes off her shelf. Also another podcast, Jump Around Bridges. Like I did a couple episodes with my old college buddy last year, and also I'm producing There's Nobody Here Named Josh podcast, but it's also on a bit of a hiatus right now, so check all those out. And until then, see you guys next week hopefully.